Close your eyes for a moment and listen to what has no sound. Sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary day, in the middle of a simple conversation, in the middle of silence, something happens. A shiver. Sudden, subtle, inexplicable. It arrives without warning, crossing the skin like a whisper from the invisible. You try to understand, but there's no apparent reason. It's not cold. No one touched you. And yet, the body spoke. And at that point, maybe you start to wonder, what is my body trying to tell me? What did it pick up? What did it translate? What did it feel? Even before my mind noticed. According to Bruce Lipton, our cells are intelligent. They don't just function, they respond. They listen to the environment, adapt, feel. But what environment are we talking about? The visible or the invisible? What's around us or what vibrates within? Epigenetics shows us that our biology is not a sentence, it's a response. And the shiver may be exactly that, an instant response to something that hasn't yet gained a name, a shape, or an explanation. Joe Dispenza, when exploring the relationship between mind, body, and the quantum field, reveals something essential. The body is the unconscious. This means that what you feel physically, including the shiver, may be the unconscious trying to express itself. It's what is hidden coming to the surface. It's what you don't want to see or are not yet ready to understand, manifesting on your skin. Imagine your body as a kind of radar, a sensitive, living radar deeply connected to everything around you. It perceives before you know. It translates before you name. It feels before you understand. And the shiver is like a tiny electrical discharge, a micro spark of vibration that runs through the nervous system. Something was touched, something was activated, something was accessed, but you don't yet know what. It's as if there's a silent alarm inside you, an alarm that doesn't ring loudly, but tingles your skin, that doesn't scream, but pulses. A vibrational alarm that goes beyond the five senses. Because yes, there is a sense you carry within you and may have forgotten, the sense of energetic perception, the sense of the soul. When the shiver comes, it is that touch, a subtle reminder that more is happening than your eyes can see. It may be a shift in an electromagnetic field. It may be an old emotion awakening. It may be a repressed memory triggered by a word, a presence, a frequency. It may be yourself trying to listen. And then the question arises, echoing deep in your consciousness. Why right now did I feel this? That is the beginning of listening. The shiver is the portal, a silent invitation that says, pay attention. Because maybe, just maybe, your soul has just touched the world, and your body was the first to notice. There are moments when something inside you already knows, even while your mind is still trying to understand. And that's when the shiver appears, without logic, without context, without any apparent reason, as if a silent part of you had detected something your eyes didn't see, and your thoughts couldn't reach. That shiver that comes out of nowhere often shows up in simple moments. You're at home, doing something trivial. You're in an ordinary conversation. You're listening to some random song. And then it happens, subtle, almost imperceptible, but real. And in that instant, it's as if the body had translated a secret language. Because the body feels before the mind understands. It picks up fields, frequencies, vibrations. It reacts to invisible presences, to stored emotions, to forgotten memories that linger in the cells like echoes of the past. According to Bruce Lipton, these emotional memories are recorded in our biology. They are vibrational files, and at certain moments these files are reactivated, not by words but by frequencies. It may be the vibration of a place, the energy of someone, or even a subtle change in the environment, something ordinary senses don't detect. But your body's field does. That shiver may be a memory of the environment. It may be an energetic imprint that still lives in that space. You walk in, and even without knowing, your system has already decoded something. A trace, an old emotion that wasn't yours, but your body felt it. And that's why it shivers, as if to say, there is something here. And the curious thing is that in those moments, the mind seeks a logical explanation. It wants to understand, to name, to rationalize. But logic is not always there, because not everything is rational, because not everything reveals itself in words. Sometimes the shiver is simply this: the soul saying, "I am feeling something," even if you don't yet know what it is. And that is not weakness. It is deep sensitivity. It is the intelligence of the body. It is biology in dialogue with the invisible. So when the shiver comes, maybe the most honest question is not, "What is happening?" but rather, "What within me has just been touched?" It's easy to fall into the temptation of spiritualizing everything, especially when you are sensitive, when your heart is open to the invisible, when you've learned to seek answers in the sacred. That's why, upon feeling a sudden shiver, many people immediately think it's a spiritual presence. And sometimes indeed it is, but not always. Not every shiver comes from above. Not every shiver comes from outside. Some come from within, from a deep and forgotten place, from an emotional knot that still pulses, from a memory you didn't know you were holding, from an old fear, from an internal contradiction between what you feel and what you think you should feel. A shiver can also be a vibrational dissonance, a friction between what your soul longs for and what your mind insists on maintaining. It can arise when a thought contradicts your deepest truth. It can be the body signaling that something is out of tune. Bruce Lipton states that the body responds to the field before rational consciousness notices. And that field is not only the environment's field, it is also the internal field, the invisible web of your emotions, memories, beliefs, and vibrational patterns. When this field falls out of balance, the body feels it. And the shiver in this case may be the silent warning that something within you is not aligned with your essence. That's why the shiver shouldn't be interpreted only through the lens of spirituality. It needs to be listened to more deeply, with more care, with more presence. Before associating the shiver with something external, maybe it's necessary to turn inward. What were you thinking before it appeared? What emotion was moving through your body? What memory, however subtle, was circling your awareness? It is possible to learn to listen to the shiver on 3 levels: in the body, in the emotion, and in the vibration. The body will show what it felt, the emotion will point to the origin, and the vibration will reveal whether there is alignment or dissonance between you and the moment. This inner listening, this conscious pause, this loving presence with yourself, that too is spirituality. It's not the shiver itself that matters. It's what it reveals about you, about what is emerging, about what needs to be integrated. The true answer is not outside. It lies in the way you embrace what you feel. There is a kind of shiver that doesn't frighten but affirms. It doesn't warn. It confirms. It shows up not as a premonition, but as recognition, as if to say, "This is it." It is a sort of silent yes, an energetic seal the body emits when you touch an inner truth, even without realizing it. Maybe you've felt this when hearing a phrase that resonated deeply, when making a decision that seemed small but felt big, when thinking of something you dream of, and for an instant something vibrated differently. The skin tingled, the heart quieted, the breath paused, and for a brief moment, everything felt right. But what happens right after? Doubt, rational mind, fear, resistance, logic trying to undo what the body already recognized. And then, what was confirmation turns into hesitation. The shiver, which came as a call to alignment, is ignored. That's where the disconnect happens, because often, the body responds to frequency before logic accepts it. The soul has already taken the step, but the mind holds back. The vibration aligned, but the thought strayed. And the shiver, which came as the energetic signature of a truth, is dismissed as something unimportant. Joe Dispenza reminds us that we are conditioned to live from the analytical mind. We want to understand everything, explain everything, control everything. But true alignment doesn't begin in the mind. It begins in vibration. It begins in the heart. It begins in the skin. When you feel a shiver in moments of expansion, of intuition, of presence, maybe it isn't a warning. Maybe it's a reflection of your field coming into order, a confirmation that there is coherence between what you feel, what you think, and what you are about to create. But many times, you interrupt that process because the intensity is overwhelming, because the emotion comes on strong, because the body responds with a force the mind doesn't understand, and the automatic reaction is to hold back, to repress, to doubt. And yet, the shiver was telling you, keep going this way. How many times have you silenced this kind of signal? How many times has your body confirmed something your mind refused? How many times has the shiver come as an answer, and you didn't listen? Maybe next time will be different. Maybe you'll begin to notice when it is the soul speaking through the skin, because there is a wisdom that doesn't use words, only vibration. And when that vibration finds coherence, it gives you chills. Not every shiver is a mystery. Sometimes it's an answer. An immediate return from a field you yourself activated, like an echo of what you emitted without realizing it. And in those cases, the shiver is not just a sensation. It is a tool, a marker, a sensory signal that points to where your vibration was at that moment and what it just encountered. When observed with attention, the shiver can reveal more about you than 1,000 thoughts. It carries the body's language in the form of vibration, and if you know how to listen, it can become a compass, not an external compass, but an inner one, aligned with your energetic field, capable of showing where there is truth, where there is noise, and where there is deviation. It all begins with presence, because the shiver doesn't last long, but it carries a lot. It is fleeting, yet full of messages. And to capture those messages, you can start with a small inner ritual, a listening in 3 layers, 3 simple, yet profound steps. The first is to name what you were thinking or feeling seconds before. What was the emotion? What was the mental image? Was there a memory, a desire, a doubt? The shiver is often the direct response to what was active in your internal field, even if only for a brief second. The second step is to scan your environment and your vibration. Where were you? With whom? What was happening around you? Did the energy shift? Was there a look that pierced through you? A sound that touched you more deeply? The shiver may be a reflection of the field of the environment coming into contact with yours. And the third step is to understand the shiver as a marker, a signal that something was accessed. Where were you vibrating when it happened? What within you attracted that signal? Was it fear? Was it desire? Was it truth? Was it conflict? By bringing these 3 layers together, thought, environment, and vibration, you begin to decode the language of the shiver. It stops being an enigma and becomes a map, a point of intersection between what you feel, what you live, and what you emit. And in this process, something subtle, yet transformative, begins to happen. You become more aware of your own frequency. You begin to notice when a shiver is revealing an inner incoherence, a blocked emotion, an external energetic presence, or a spiritual confirmation. More than interpreting the shiver, what matters is embracing it, looking at it with loving curiosity, with deep listening, because there, in that fraction of a second when everything seemed to tremble, lies information that can change the way you perceive yourself. And when you start to listen with that quality, the shiver stops being just a sensation and becomes a revelation. Imagine for a moment that you carry within you a compass, but not an ordinary compass, a vibrational compass, sensitive, silent, precise. A compass that doesn't point to geographic north, but to your inner north, the one you often forget, silence or doubt. Now imagine that every time you stray from that north, this compass vibrates, and when that vibration is strong enough, it reaches your skin, and you shiver. The shiver, in this sense, may be exactly that, an adjustment, a micro-energetic adjustment, an almost imperceptible call from the field that surrounds you and the field you emit, trying to realign your path, like a whisper saying, not this way, but that way, yes, a kind of quantum GPS of the soul. Neville Goddard said that imagination shapes reality, and when you visualize, feel, and vibrate a new possibility, the field begins to respond. Reality hasn't yet changed, but the field is already different, and the shiver is the body sensing that change before it becomes visible. It's the body recognizing what hasn't yet happened, but already vibrates as truth. You imagine something profoundly true. You feel it as real. You enter coherence. And suddenly, a shiver, as if the future had just touched you, as if the reality not yet manifested were already recognizing you. But what happens when you ignore it? When you feel it but don't believe? When you perceive it but doubt? The shiver then becomes an echo, a sound lost in the body, an aborted intuition, a call unanswered. And it's not that the field stopped speaking, it's that you stopped listening. On the other hand, when you honor that touch, when you recognize the shiver as a sign of the invisible brushing your surface, something shifts. The body becomes an ally, a sensor, a guide, and life begins to reorganize around that subtler listening. Because at its core, the shiver is the sound of tuning. It's when your field begins to vibrate with greater precision. It's when your future self draws near. It's when what once felt distant becomes tangible, not through the eyes, but through the skin. The shiver doesn't lie. It may confuse, but it doesn't deceive. It may be ambiguous, but it isn't false. It is real. It is present. It is body and field in dialogue. And maybe it's simply trying to remind you of who you are. Not everything we feel needs an explanation. Sometimes, the shiver that comes without reason is exactly that, a pause from the universe. A moment where everything slows down, everything quiets, everything breathes. It's the body asking for presence. It's the soul calling you back. It's the field saying, listen. Bruce Lipton teaches us that our cells listen to the environment even before the mind understands. This means that at every moment, your body is in dialogue with the invisible. A dialogue without words, a meeting of frequencies, a subtle intertwining between what inhabits you and what surrounds you. The shiver in this listening is not just a reaction, it is a code, a symbol that something has made contact, something in the field or within you has shifted, and your body, like a sensitive instrument, responded. Greg Braden expands this view when he says that the heart is the link between the body and the unified field. And it is precisely at this point of connection between biology and consciousness, between matter and energy, that the shiver happens, as if it were a small spark of that greater connection, a reminder that you are part of something unseen, yet deeply felt. There are moments when the shiver comes as a warning, at other times, as a confirmation. But there are also moments when it is simply an invitation, a call to expanded presence, an invitation to be here, not just with the body, but with the soul, to feel the moment deeply, to touch life with attention. And when that call is answered, time slows. The layers of the moment reveal themselves, and the experience of existing gains another depth. There is no hurry, there is no noise. There is only this body, this skin, this field, in contact with something sacred. So the next time a shiver arises, don't rush to interpret it. Don't hurry to give it meaning. Just breathe, be, listen. Because maybe, just maybe, it's not about understanding, but about remembering, about returning, about realigning. And then ask yourself gently, what within me just came into contact with something I don't yet understand? In that instant, you are not alone. The field listens, your body responds, and life, in silence, guides you. We've reached the end of a silent crossing, a dive through the skin, through emotion, through vibration, and maybe now, looking at the shiver with new eyes, or rather with new presence, something within you has quieted, or opened, or remembered. For a long time, the shiver was seen only as a physiological phenomenon, a reflex of cold, a trace of fear, a noise of the body. But today, with the wisdom of spiritual neuroscience and energetic epigenetics, we can recognize that the shiver is more than a physical event. It is a deep dialogue between the body and the field, Bruce Lipton shows that we are not victims of genetics. We are co-creators in constant adaptation to the environment that surrounds us, including the invisible one. Our cells feel, react, learn. They capture information from the field even before the mind forms thoughts. And often, that perception manifests as a shiver. Greg Braden takes us even deeper. He says we live immersed in a unified field where everything is connected, and that the heart, that organ which pulses far beyond physiology, is the bridge linking our body to the whole. The heart feels the field, and when that communication intensifies, the body responds, not with words, but with sensations, with shivers. So now, with all of this alive within you, maybe you can see that the shiver was never a coincidence. It has always been a warning, a signal, a conversation, sometimes softly shouting, sometimes loudly whispering, sometimes desperately trying to be heard. And you, finally, listened. From now on, when that shiver comes, maybe it won't be the same. Maybe it will find you more aware, more attentive, more sensitive to what vibrates beyond what is seen, because the shiver is more than a reaction. It is a reminder that you feel, that you vibrate, that you are alive. And if you are willing to listen, it can become your greatest guide. Your body hears everything your soul whispers, and sometimes it whispers through the skin.